Hello, everyone. My name is Karen Quinn, and I'm the testing mom. And today I am going to give you a mini lesson on the OLSAT test so you can help your child get ready for this test. All right, so what is the OLSAT? Well, it stands for the Otis-Lennon School Ability Test. In fact, this is a picture of Dr. Arthur Otis, who is the author of the test. And it was actually kind of sad because he wrote the test, but then he died before it could be published. So Lennon is the other person who helped complete the test. And so it became known as the Otis-Lennon School Ability Test. And an ability test is a test that is looking at your thinking skills, essentially. Unlike a test like an achievement test that your child might take at the end of the year that looks at their math and reading and English language arts skills, this is actually looking at your thinking and reasoning, problem solving, analytical types of skills. The skills you need to have in order to do math or in order to do reading comprehension or all the things that kids have to do in school. This is a little bit like an IQ test is the best way I could describe it, but it's given in a group setting, usually at school. It's often given for kids who are trying to qualify for a gifted program or a GATE program, that sort of thing. Okay, so what is this test like? Well, there is a verbal section and a nonverbal section. I'm going to take you through the different types of questions in each of the two sections. You can see right away that the kindergarten to second grade test has fewer subtests on it. There are about 10 subtests, kindergarten to second grade. And the test at this level is more picture-based. The questions are read to the kids. They don't have to do any reading. The youngest kids just point to the answer. The first and second graders probably fill out a bubbles in a test booklet, or they might do it online. From third to 12th grade, it's more of a word-based test, and then there's numbers and there are figures as well. And there's more subtests for the older kids. There's 15 different types of questions for the third to the 12th graders. So there's a lot more variation in what they're going to be asked to do as they go through the test. And it's a little bit different from a lot of standardized tests, because many standardized tests go section by section with questions that are the same type of question. But this test mixes the questions all up. So your child will be they could be doing a math type question, and then they'll do a figural analogy, and then they might do a picture series, something like that. So it's all mixed up. So they have to kind of change their thinking from question to question. And I'm going to take you through all the different types of questions so you'll understand what they're like. Okay, so let's look at the types of questions for younger kids first, and then we'll do the questions for the older students. Okay, following directions. Here's two different types of following directions questions, and there's many different types. Some have pictures, that sort of thing. But with this particular question, it's choose the picture that shows a large square to the right of a large heart. So a lot of questions get into positional kinds of things, like choose the thing that's on top of, next to, beneath, diagonally across from, to the right of, to the left of, that kind of thing, just like we're seeing right here. Now, another following directions question is this one. Look at the numbers and letters in the first box. Point to the box on the side that shows what would happen if the B changed places with the 5 and the 3 changed places with the S. and this is going to be our answer. And you can see that kids have to really listen, pay attention, and remember what was asked, because if you're not listening and you miss even a few words, you're not going to be able to answer some of the verbal questions. So that's a very critical part of the test for younger kids. And teachers cannot repeat the question. So when you're practicing, what you really want to do is encourage your child to pay attention and listen to the question as it's being read. So for oral reasoning, what this means is this is something that a child hears something, and then they must use their thinking skills to answer the question. So here we have choose the picture that does not show anything that measures time in hours. And this one does not show anything that measures time in hours. Here, this has a wristwatch, this has a clock, and this has a watch as well. And you see the child really has to listen, because if they miss that word does not show, then they would miss the question altogether. Here is another type of question you're going to see in oral reasoning. Look at the shapes above. Circles are bips, triangles are bops, and hearts are zaps. Which group says zap, bip, bop? And this is our answer right here. Now for arithmetic reasoning, these are essentially word problems. So they're verbal in nature, but there's math involved. So choose the box that shows how many pieces of bread can be toasted at one time in the toasters in the first box. So here's our answer. And then on this one, this is like about a second grade question. Ajay had the lollipops you see in the first box. He gave half to his friends. Then he and his sister ate 3. How many are left? And this is our answer right here. 1 would be left. Okay, now we're in nonverbal questions. The first is picture and figural classification. And the question is, choose the picture or figure that's different from the others and doesn't belong. So in this one, the one that is different is the stop sign, because each one of these has 6 sides, except this does not have 6 sides. So this does not belong. And on this one, which one doesn't belong? It would be this one, because this one has the same shapes diagonally across from each other, except for here, but here and all the rest of them, they're diagonally across from each other. So this is our answer. It does not belong. With picture and figural analogies, we're looking for the relationship on top, and then we take the third picture and we pair it with an answer so that the relationship on top and the relationship on the bottom are the same. So for example, eyes are to sunglasses as hand is to glove. Both of them are covered. Sunglasses cover eyes, and then a glove covers your hand. And on this one, we have a small to large figure, small to large. So that's our answer. And on the picture or figural series, if it's a picture series, the pictures are in some kind of order. And so in this case, we've got coins going from least to most. And so this would be our next coin that would be the next highest after the quarter. And then here for the figural series, we have 2 things happening. In the middle, the figure is rotating 90 degrees counterclockwise in each box. And so we want the black over here in this last box, and the curved line is going from side to side. So our line is going to be over here. So 1 is our answer. And then the last type of question for the younger kids is the pattern matrix. And the pattern matrix is also given to 3rd to 12th graders. So this goes across the whole test. And with these, there are 9 figures, and they either form a pattern or follow a rule. In this case, each column is the same, and so this belongs in the empty box. And in this one, what's happening is the outer shape is rotating clockwise 90 degrees across the 9 boxes. So we know that the figure, if it rotates 90 degrees, it's going to be pointing up, and it changes the color switch each time. So this is going to be our answer right there. All right, now let's look at some of the verbal questions for 3rd to 12th grade. We start with antonyms, which are opposites. Okay, the opposite of seldom is often. Sentence arrangement, what this is there's a sentence, the words have been all mixed up, and the question is, if you rearrange these words into sentence order, the last word of the sentence would begin with the letter what? So we have to look at this sentence and figure out what it actually would translate to. And it is Alex became aggressive when the teacher called on him. So him is the last word and it starts with an H. So that's our answer. Sentence completion can have 1 blank or 2 blanks, and you have to decide what words go in the blanks. This blank cannot be 1. We will never blank. So the answer is debate. This debate cannot be 1. We will never agree. For arithmetic reasoning, it is just a word problem. That's what it is. And so you have to know your basic math and be able to handle word problems. And then logical selection is another type of question where a child has to just use logic to come up with what makes the most sense as an answer. So here, there can be no anger without happiness, emotion, sadness, madness, arguments. And the answer is emotion, because you have to have emotion to have anger. And then verbal analogies are the word equivalent to the ones we looked at just a minute ago. Chef is to dinner as baker is to dessert. So that's our answer. And then here we have word letter matrix. Now these are often, there's lots of different versions of this type of question. So in this case, we're going up and down to figure out our answer. Sometimes you have to go across to figure out your answer. But here with rat and crate, we've added a letter at the beginning, a letter at the end. Letter at the beginning here, letter at the end to get to slope. So what goes here? Rim. And we add the letter at the beginning, letter at the end, and that's what goes here. For verbal classification, we saw picture classification before, but here it's like, which word doesn't go with the others? Nonchalant, surly, genial, or mellow. And surly is our answer because it's kind of the opposite of what these words are. These are more positive behavior words, and this is kind of in a bad mood, kind of. So it's the opposite. And inference questions, these start at 4th grade, and children can use scratch paper for these. And by the way, on the math word problems, they can also use scratch paper. But they have to use their sort of logical thinking and inferential thinking skills to come up with the answers here. So for example, Andy bought more gumballs than Luke or Dan, but fewer than Caleb. If Andy bought 5 green gumballs, 1 blue gumball, and 2 red gumballs, then we know for certain that Caleb bought at least 9 gumballs because he had fewer than Caleb. All right, and then here's another one you can read on your own, but these are kind of fun and difficult, these inference questions, if you ask me. Okay, and then these are the nonverbal types of questions that are on the test. Figural classification, where one of these doesn't belong because it's different, and the answer here is A, and the reason it doesn't belong is because these all have the patterns inside the figures. They follow, they're all the same, black stripe, dots, and white, black stripe, stripes, dots, and white. So this one doesn't follow that pattern. And then you've seen this pattern matrix question, and you've seen this figural series question before. So those are similar to what we had before. And actually figural analogies are the same. They're also on the test for younger kids. With this one, the one we have right here, what we have is 180-degree rotation to get to this right here. So we need 180-degree rotation to get to this one right here. So that's what's happening there. And the last group of questions, they are considered nonverbal, but they are quantitative. So they're mathematical. So you do need math skills for this particular test, but it's more thinking about math as opposed to, let's say, just doing your basic calculations. You've got to be thinking and reasoning to come up with the answers, and you'll see what I mean. So number series, usually it can often be just like a pattern that goes from number to number to number. There's a lot of different formats that these patterns take. In this one in particular, it's what we call an alternating pattern. So the pattern is every other number, and you have to recognize that when you look at it. So here I look at it and it's 110, 220, we've doubled, and now we've doubled again to get to 440. But in the middle, we have 100 and then there's 50, so we cut it in half. So if we cut this in half, 25 is the answer. And then for numeric inference, here's what we do. It says the numbers in each box go together following the same rule. Figure out the rule and apply it to the third box. Okay, so here what's happening is we double our number to get to the second one, and then we multiply 4 to get to the third one. And that governs each one of these. If we double, we get to 6, we multiply by 4, and we get to 24. Number matrices, you have to kind of just look at these and try to figure out what is going on. Sometimes they go across, sometimes they go up and down. So you're really using your reasoning skills to figure these out. Now, in this case, what we're doing here is we're adding 3 to the first number. And then for the second number, we're subtracting 3 from the second number. So 17 plus 3 is 20, and then it's 23, and then minus is 14, and then 11, and then 10 plus 3 is 13, and then it'll be 16 over here, and then we subtract 3 and it'll be 14 over here. And so that's how we get to this number, A being the answer. And then here, what we're doing is, let's see, we are doubling the number. So we double the number on top and it becomes 4. And then we add the first number, which is 2, to this to get to 6. So if we double this, it's 12. And then we add 6 and it's 18. And then if we double this, it's 24, add 6. And add the first number, and it is 36. So that's how we get to this. But you get this by sitting here and studying it and trying to figure out the relationship between the numbers. That's how these work. Now, what I want to do is I just want to show you one type of question that we've just gone over. We saw the figural analogies. They were for the younger kids and they're for the older kids. And what I want to show you here is the fact that really with all of these questions, there is a strategy, there is a way to approach them. And if you know what the way is, it's kind of like the keys to the kingdom, because if you practice and you understand how they work, you'll be able to solve them all. So that's why practice is so important. And one of the things we do on the Testing Mom website is we give you a lot of this information. You know, what are the rules to solving these different types of questions? So I'm going to show you how to solve figural analogies. And if you teach this to your child, they'll be able to get these right when they take the test. So the thing about figural analogies is there's changes happening between the figures, sometimes one change, sometimes two, sometimes three or four, when they get really hard. But at the beginning, it's just one change, and your child needs to know what the most common changes are. There's 10 common changes that you'll see in all of these figural analogies. The figures stay the same. The size changes. Here we're going to big to small, but you could go from small to big. The piece moves or changes position, as this one has done. Colors switch, which you see right here. Shapes change, like the square edges become rounded. A piece is taken away, or a piece could be added. So it could start like this and then look like this. There's a rotation. We saw that before. Quantity change. This went from 3 to 6. There could be a mirror image or a flip, and sometimes it's a horizontal and sometimes it's a vertical flip. It can go either way. And then 4 or more pieces can come together and make a particular shape. So what you want to do is work with questions that are easier, where there's just one change, and teach your child to recognize what is the change that's taking place, because it'll be one of these 10 changes. So for example, this one, which we saw before, is a rotation, 180-degree rotation. And if you can recognize that rotation, then and do the same thing down here, you'll know that A is the answer. Now on this one has 2 changes, because what happens is the shape in the middle gets bigger, and then the 2 outside pieces go inside and they move together. So for this, on the bottom, we need the middle shape to get bigger, and we need the 2 inside to come together. So D is the answer. But the trick is to teach your child to recognize one change at a time. And if they can recognize these 10 changes in a number of different questions, then you can start giving them harder ones where more than one thing will happen, and they'll understand that they just take it one change at a time, and that's how they analyze it, and that's how they get to the answer. And I want to just point you to an area of the site called On-Demand Classes and Recorded Webinars, because here we have all kinds of content where we teach you how to teach your child how to handle different types of questions like this one. So just go here and you can pull it up by test or by skills, and you can find all kinds of information showing you how to teach your child how to do the different types of questions. Now, we also do a lot of tutoring at Testing Mom, and our tutors, of course, know all these little tricks. And this is what they're teaching your kids when they're working with kids in the tutoring one-to-one, or even we do small group classes, and this is what they teach in the small group classes. So now I want to go over some very common questions that people ask us. The first being, well, what's a good prep plan to follow? And the answer is going to depend on how much time you have before your child is tested. So if you have a very limited amount of time, then what you want to do is just make sure your child understands what to do with each type of question when they see it. Because you don't want them to be sitting there trying to spend their time figuring out what's going on, what they're being asked to do. So just make sure they're familiar with each of the question types if you're starting to prep at the last minute. Now, hopefully you have time, because it makes it much easier. Kids do not like to cram. If you have several weeks or several months, then just go very slowly, very methodically. The first thing you want to do is assess your child. You want to figure out, where are they strong? Where are they weak? This is something, now we have tutors that can give an assessment to your child, or you can even do it yourself. You can give them 3 or 4 of each question type and see how they do with each one. And then where they're really strong, you still want to practice those, because you certainly want to maximize their score on the things they do well. But on the ones they're kind of struggling with, you want to practice. And the reason for that is that with these sort of cognitive questions, a lot of the reason your child doesn't do well with them at first is that they don't understand them. It's not like what they do at school. So if they practice, it's almost like a light bulb goes off and suddenly they know how to do it. And they get much better at them. So my recommendation is work on those weaknesses. Try to really shore them up. Try to teach them how to handle those types of questions, because so often the light bulb goes off and then boom, they can do those questions and they get much better on the overall test. The other thing I highly recommend is just mix up your practice tools. Just don't have your child doing, question after question after question in a workbook situation or even on our website. You want to mix it up. You want to do some online questions, do some offline questions. We have online games, we have flashcards that work. We have something called Skill Building Academy. I'll show you that in a minute. That's fun for kids to do, but it helps them with their skills. You can put them in a class where they learn to take the test, or a little bit of tutoring if you feel they can benefit from that. But mix it up, because if they're doing it in different ways, then they don't get as bored, and they stay excited and focused on the prep. The other tips that I want to give you, and this is super, super important with a cognitive test, and that is start with questions that are too easy for your child. And that's for two reasons. One, you want to give them confidence. You want them to feel like they know how to answer the questions because they'll get the easy ones right. But the thing with these cognitive questions is they build on themselves. So if you do some that are really easy, the child starts to learn how to think about these questions. And suddenly they get a little harder, and soon they're doing really hard questions. So it has nothing to do with what grade level they're in, because these are thinking skills. And I've certainly seen kindergartners doing 5th grade questions, and I've seen 5th graders that need to start with kindergarten questions. So, just start with easy questions. Let your child work to their grade level and even past their grade level if they can do that without frustration. The other thing I want to say is make sure you're working on test taking skills. And if you just go to our parent resources section and open up something called Test Taking Skills Younger, Test Taking Skills Older, you'll get some guidance on this. But kids lose as many points because they make test taking mistakes as they lose because they don't understand the material. So they do things like they rush through the test. If they guess among all 5 answers. They don't eliminate the ones that are clearly wrong. They lose focus. I mean, there's so many things that all children do who are inexperienced with tests. So make sure you're working on the test taking skills. I mean, I know, for example, when we are tutoring kids, we probably spend as much time on test taking skills as we spend on just the material itself, because this is such a easy way to lose points. So we want to make sure that kids don't make those mistakes. And you'll see your child making the mistake and just gently guide them to, not do it. Little kids, for example, they all say, I don't know, even if they do know. And so you want to say, always make your best guess. Don't say, I don't know, even if you're not sure. It's just something little kids will do. I've seen it so many times. Okay. Another question we get is, how long should we practice every day? And this, again, depends on how much time you have before the test. If it's the weekend before the test and you're just trying to make sure your child is familiar with all the questions, you're going to do a lot more in a day than if you're 6 months out. Then, if you're 6 months out, do 15, 20 minutes a day, a little bit every day. It'll make a big difference. You'll get your practice in. And in terms of teaching kids to manage their time, on the actual test, students get, in general, like 30 to 40 seconds a question. So what you want to do is, when you first start working with your child, you want to make sure they know how to do the question. Don't worry about the time. Just make sure they understand how to think through the type of question you're doing and to get to the answer. And then when you get closer to the test, then you can do some practice that's for speed and accuracy. where you say, okay, let's take 3 minutes and go through, these questions, and just kind of aim for 30 seconds each and see if you can get your child through the questions in a and that they get it right and do them quickly enough, like they're going to have to do it on the real test. But don't worry about the timing at the beginning, because that's something you kind of leave to the end. Another question a lot of people ask is, well, what does my child need to score to qualify? And the answer to that is every school district does it differently. So you have to check with your own school district as to what the score requirements are. Generally, it depends on the program. It could be anywhere from 97th to 99th percentile, or in some cases 90th to 99th percentile. It's just going to depend on your school district. So check with them. And now I just want to show you where the practice questions are. When you log into Testing Mom, you just click log in, and you'll get to the home page. Click Test Prep, and something called View All Tests will come up. And then you see all of this. And you would choose the OLSAT, or, if you're from LAUSD or Chicago or Houston, OLSAT is one of the tests that we have you prep for, because that's going to show up on your test for your child. So you can go there if that's where you are, or you could just go to the OLSAT right here. And then when you open up the OLSAT test, what you're going to find is lots and lots of practice questions. We have over 8,500 OLSAT practice questions. So your child will never, ever run out of questions. And you practice them in different ways. You can do interactive questions by clicking the green bar. You can do sets of questions here just by opening up these sets, and you can print them out. You could or put them on your computer and go through them together with your child. And as I said, start below your child's grade level, and then go beyond your child's grade level if you can. And the thing that's different about Testing Mom, I think, from anybody else you might be working with, is that we give you every grade level of questions. So you can start with easier questions. I mean, you can go 2 or 3 grades easier if you need to. And even our kindergarten questions start with the easiest questions you can ever imagine. So we try to give you these super easy options in this so that your child can build up to harder ones. And then they get super hard. I mean, I promise you, they get so hard at the end, but at the beginning, it's really easy. Start with easier questions, let your child build up their skills that way. The other thing that's very helpful, especially for younger kids, is we have a lot of games, interactive games. So you can use our analogy game, use our IQ Fun Tree game, digital tutor. These are all interactive questions. Pattern Blast and Pattern Puzzlers is very helpful for working on just nonverbal kinds of figural questions. And so all of these are fun to do, and they build the skills for this particular test. We give you access to our IQ Fun Pack board game questions for younger kids through 2nd, 3rd grade. And you just go there, click game. All the tests come up, and you can click OLSAT and practice OLSAT questions and questions that build skills for the OLSAT test. Another thing we give you is our Skill Building Academy. And because we're an accredited program, we're able to give you access to all these amazing learning programs that are developed by companies like Scholastic, Brain Pop, Reading Kingdom, MobyMax. For OLSAT, for younger kids, Here Builder is great. This program is all about building following directions and listening skills, which is super, super important for this test. So that's a really good one to use. All of these math programs are very good. MobyMax, Manga High, Dreambox, Smart Math, we have a whole bunch. Woot Math, because there are in the nonverbal quantitative section, there are math questions, so you can work with those. And then there's vocabulary, which becomes relevant. Big universe is helpful. So this is something you get to help you prepare for the test, or when the test's over, just to work on skills for school. Another area of resource and tool just to keep it interesting and mix it all up, we have flashcards. These are available on Amazon. Now, the verbal concept cards are really good if you have a younger child doing following directions questions. This was actually developed specifically for the OLSAT following directions section. So it covers all the words that kids need to understand to do, to follow the directions, like next to, above, below, beneath, across from, just all the different positional kinds of words that come up in that following directions section. And of course, the Here Builder, which I mentioned before. The spatial concept cards are really helpful for some of those spatial nonverbal questions. And there's OLSAT and NAT cards. This is good for younger kids and for verbal questions. But the NNAT questions are nonverbal, so they're very much supportive of the the like figural analogies and the figural series, all of that. That's helpful here as well. And then when you join Testing Mom, one of the things you get offered is to also join gogobrain. And gogobrain is, we call this the skills behind the scores, but I think it's especially good for any child who's taking the OLSAT. A number of the games on this platform are very similar to the types of questions on the OLSAT. So I want to recommend that when you join Testing Mom, also join gogobrain. It's very inexpensive. I think it's like $5 a month, but it's games, but it's all of the cognitive skills that are assessed on the OLSAT. So this is actually a very helpful tool for OLSAT. And then last but not least, if you feel your child needs one-to-one attention, we certainly can help you with some tutoring, one-to-one tutoring. And we can do an assessment for you if that's what you need, and just tell you what to work on, or we can work on the things that give your child the hardest time, and then you can work with them on the areas where it's a little bit easier for them. We give them homework between sessions. The other thing is we do small group classes, and they're different from, all the time. We change them every month, different classes go up. But sometimes kids really enjoy learning next to other kids. And so I want to recommend the small group classes as well, if you think your child might enjoy them. Because a lot of kids just really have fun in those classes. I don't know, it's just, every child is different. And, each child kind of learns in their own way, and you'll figure out what really resonates with your child. But the small group classes are great for a lot of kids. So I hope you found this helpful, and that now you feel like you're a parent expert on the OLSAT test. And I wish you all the best in getting your child ready. Please join Testing Mom. And after you do, feel free to reach out to us anytime. Our parent success team is there to answer your questions. We want to help you succeed. We want to help your child succeed. So hope you found this useful.